Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Jules, here for WhatCulture Gaming, joined as ever by the banana that is in the pyjama.
I knew it.
Josh Branch, you knew it was coming. At least it's not the boy in the striped pyjamas.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. There we go. What else have you got? A hairdresser?
Nothing.
Someone said bullseye in there. I'm not even old enough to know what bullseye is. I don't even know what that is. Anyway, what are we doing today? Jules is dead. Jules is dead. He's gone.
It's time to hit that intro.
What's that? There's news? Oh my gosh! Guess it's time for Jules and Josh!
Oh, back in the room. Right, okay. So today we're talking about some news, and today it's to do with EA. Those lovable, roguish bastards.
Lovable? That's a very...
I'm using it in heavy air quotes there. Basically, we all know that EA's practices can be sort of like very aimed towards like monetization of their products.
Yes.
As is their want to do, it's their IPs, they can do what they like with it. It doesn't usually sit very well with fans of the franchises that they're messing with though. And after a series of sort of phone calls inside the company, we now have some information about sort of where they think that they're taking a lot more of their franchises in the future. And I can honestly say, it's a bit scary.
I'm a bit worried because, obviously, like you said, they had their final conference call of the fiscal year the other week, and Daniel Ahmed on Twitter rounded up every single key point. But the first, perhaps unsurprising bit of news is that Anthem did not meet expectations sales-wise.
Oh, shock
Surprising,
horror.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Shock.
Before that came out, EA said they expected it to sell 5 to 6 million copies in the first month alone. Which is ridiculous.
Now that is absolutely mad. That's the same attitude that Square Enix took when they put out their Tomb Raider game and called it a commercial failure, even though it had sold something like 1.2 million at the time that they had recorded that.
Yeah.
Like, again, this goes back to a huge branching topic that we've been discussing many times, and you can check it out on our podcast when we discuss the industry and how we as consumers should not have to foot the bill of developers' costs.
Exactly, yeah.
They put that amount of money into that project. It should not be up to us to recoup their investment for it.
No.
But they did push Anthem a lot. The marketing budget for it was huge, for example.
Well, that's it. I mean, obviously, we all knew what Anthem was before it came out. At least, like, there were billboards everywhere. The marketing was up the wall. Is that even a phrase?
Up against the wall would be like it would be bad, but on the wall.
It's good. It's good.
On the wall would be like a poster is on the wall.
Point being, it was everywhere.
Yes,
and
it was.
yes, despite it being an original IP and the new game from BioWare, there was a lot of pedigree behind it, and you would have expected it to do well. Still, for my money, 5 to 6 million is kind of ridiculous, no matter how much of a live service it is. Like Dead Space 3 back in the day, that was the third part of a widely successful franchise, and that was expected to sell 5 million. Mass Effect 3 in its first month of sales only sold 3.5 million, so I don't know where this precedent has come from that it was going to do this well.
It's so weird because it's like, I understand that they wanted it to do so well, and I can understand that maybe at this point in time, if the game had been critically successful, then it would also be commercially successful, and also these sort of microtransactions and stuff going in maybe account towards that, but still, that is a ludicrous thing, and it seems like it was almost destined to fail.
Well, they've committed to, in this conference call, to fixing it and supporting it in the long term, but that sort of jars with what's been happening behind the scenes with BioWare Edmonton moving on to Dragon Age 4, and I know the plan was always to move the development off to BioWare Austin and let them support it, but it's less support in providing new content than just fixing and scrambling to fix this fire that's going on, because a lot of the new content in the roadmap has obviously been postponed.
Yes.
So although they are trying to instill faith in their shareholders, I don't think they are instilling faith in their player base.
Not at all. As Scott and I had a little chat about this at the end of last week, and you can check out the video because it went out on Monday. We talked about how Anthem doesn't really have like a creative lead, and then having 3 people who could potentially have led the project being taken off to other things, again, damages the sort of like consumer or perceived reputation of the brand. We spoke about it at great length to say that maybe it's time for it to go free to play, maybe it's time to just put it down the line and basically do that, and I'm sure that's where you're going to leave
I'm going to, because, although Anthem was a big blip on this conference call as a whole, it was mostly positive because Apex Legends has been doing gangbusters. It is their biggest new launch in ages. I think 30% of the player base are actually new to EA, which is great for them because they get new players coming in and seeing their other titles, and the free-to-play model has worked. Like, they are wanting to, going forward, to make more free-to-play games, although they did reiterate that they are not getting rid of premium titles entirely. And they are apparently taking some lessons from its launch as well. They want to do more soft launches, experiment with marketing and things like that, which could be good. But also, Apex Legends, in my eyes, is a great game, but potentially was a flash in the pan. You know, there's a lot of talent behind them.
We have to look as well at the sort of like lightning in a bottle effect that was Apex Legends, because it came at a time when we're kind of at the sort of like the tip of the mountain, you'd say, for sort of like battle royale games. So it's still a good time to cash in on it. It had a kind of relatively low investment cost for them, despite having the talent they had. The fact that it was always marketed as being free to play, the fact that it was offering these operatives that were basically, I'm not saying that it's a stolen idea, but it is a borrowed idea from the likes of like Overwatch and Call of Duty, in the sense that you get like a customized character that has a special ability and stuff like that. They managed to just hit it all on the right thing. But I'm not going to say that if they brought out, say, another Apex Legends style game right now, that it would do as well.
Well, that's it. You can't just like you can't just try to be Fortnite or PUBG. You can't just then copy what you've just put out with Apex Legends, if that makes sense. Even if it's just from a structural and marketing perspective.
A fantastic analogy would be the battle between Overwatch and Battleborn.
Yeah.
Like, those two on paper, effectively the same sort of experience, but whereas one succeeded and the other didn't, is up to so many different factors that you can't say, I'll just bring out another one today, and it'll do exactly the same as Apex Legends. If they brought out Apex Legends 2 right now, you can't say that it would do like as well.
No, definitely not, because I mean, even though that did well and it got about 50 million players, which is ridiculous, a lot of those people did trail off because it was free to play, but the model may sustain it. But like you said, Respawn are such a great team, and they make great games. Titanfall 1 was great. Titanfall 2 was great.
Titanfall 2 is on Scott's like one of his best games of all time.
He absolutely loves that. But both those games were kind of smothered by EA, and Apex Legends was one of the first times where the developers got out in front and they controlled the messaging. They told us about what the game was, and that, again, instilled confidence in us, whereas the big conglomerate of what EA is usually doesn't.
A good sort of comparison point is, look at how Anthem in its build-up was constantly, people were saying that, EA are going to hamper what BioWare is. Whereas you're saying that the way that Apex Legends sort of presented itself was Respawn saying like, look, we work with EA, but we don't work for EA. This is what we're trying to do for you guys.
Well, it's a difficult line to like draw, I suppose, because sometimes that sort of mass messaging and just like, this is our official line, that's sometimes what you need, because when you get like individual developers, they might go off on a tangent like Randy Pitchford's been doing recently, you know what I mean? And in the end, that damages the product as a whole, whereas Respawn have mostly been good, but you don't get that with every single developer. Like BioWare in the past, like we all infamously remember the time Casey Hudson, I think it was, said there wouldn't be an ABC ending, and that has haunted them for years. So there are dangers to going down this route, but you know, in the case of Apex Legends, it just happens to have worked.
Well, fingers crossed that they carry on to success in that, and they can actually learn from that, because there was talk that other games are also going to adopt this free-to-play model, as we were saying, going forward. We haven't had any confirmation as to whether any of their previous titles are going to receive this.
Not yet.
And I do believe that, again, using Anthem as an example, even though it might be best for the franchise, it would actually hurt the player base, again, for people who had paid a lot of money.
I mean, you don't want to annoy those people. They have invested, they were there day one, and yet they've been nothing but bird.
But you know what is taking the world by storm?
Oh, go on.
Firestorm.
Wow.
Oh, look at that segue. I'll tell you what,
that was actually gorgeous.
It's almost like it's written down on paper in front of me there. Is the
Battlefield.
Oh, I always get it wrong. I'm so annoyed at myself. Every single time I get it wrong.
So you should be.
I'm so annoyed. The comments never let me forget. I hate it. I've played both the games. So, anyway, calm find your zen, sit Hatra in a river, or let it wash over you. Battlefield 5 has got quite a sort of strange addition a while back, which was the Firestorm mode, and everyone was a bit like, ooh, is a Battle Royale mode really going to fit quite well into the Battlefield sort of mold? And lo and behold, it did. It's really, really popular.
It's apparently the biggest live event Battlefield has ever done, which I don't know anyone who's actually playing it. I give it a little go, and I guess it's a testament to the power of Battle Royale as a whole, because I think it's like a fine mode, obviously. But obviously the conversation is dominated by Fortnite and even Blackout, and no one's really talking about Firestorm, and yet it's apparently rejuvenating the franchise, which is really good in one sense, because I like Battlefield 5 and I want to see it succeed and evolve over time. But on the other hand, it really does feed into the narrative that EA hates single player and thinks that Battle Royale is the way forward. They did say that before.
It almost proves them right as well.
Because tragically,
Because if they're saying, right, look, we've given you a single player, we've done all these things for you, and you've chosen to only come to the game when it offers a thing that every other game is offering, then what are we going to do?
Well, the last time we had one of these conference calls, they literally said that the decline of Battlefield 5 was in part because they focused on the single player and then had to delay the Battle Royale mode. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but if you just But if you look at like cold hard facts, which they will, and just see, whoa, this did well, this didn't do well, it's easy to conflate the two.
It's a good example is when when you go and watch a film and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go see this film because it looks a bit crap. I don't really care. It's a bit of a laugh. I'm going there ironically, I guess you could say. The problem is that you're actually still giving the money to that project, and the filmmakers, they're not going to see it as being like, oh, Josh Brown's in the banter seats.
Yeah.
He's there paying his hard money, and they'll just see you as a person that's doing that. So they're going to keep making more and more trite and trash like that.
So what you're saying is, don't go to see the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie, because we will encourage them to make more.
Literally, I am saying that, but I am also saying that I'm a massive hypocrite, and I will be going to see that and laughing loudly and proudly at it. But that's not the point of this. Well, the point is that I worry how this might affect Battlefield going forward.
Me too.
Because if it means that the next Battlefield that comes out on its 2-year sort of cycle that they've been sort of propagating at the moment, what if that is now the focus of it? I will admit that the concept of having a large-scale battle and having tons of players online is at its core what Battlefield is about.
Yes.
But I'm worried that the delivery of this sort of closing ring, everyone get to the center, everyone rush, and they might ruin the sort of balanced and sort of like focused combat that we already have.
The only thing I can hope for is that the backlash to the original trailer and stuff was so strong because everyone was so scared that it was losing its identity or whether it was being like codified. Like Call of Duty-ified, not just codified. That EA won't do that and keep it a separate thing because they might, like you said, with free-to-play stuff, if they're going to go forward with that, they might even section off and be like, look, he's Battlefield Firestorm, just call it that, and you can play that free-to-play and we'll update it, but the core Battlefield experience might not change going forward.
We've been thinking about that for Call of Duty itself,
exactly,
and we're saying that Blackout might actually just be a separate mode going forward, and it might be its own franchise in its own way. We may see a crystallization of the entire industry as a whole in that sense, that the Battle Royale mode becomes its own game in its own right, and everything else just goes around it doing its own thing.
Which I think is smart. If EA and DICE manage to get there first before Call of Duty inevitably pulls the gun on that idea, then that would be a big win for them.
I personally think that EA going forward really should adopt this free-to-play model a lot more. I do think that there are certain games that might actually benefit from it. I feel like there are certain franchises that they can't do it to because it's almost like institutionalized thinking of like, your franchises like the FIFA games and your sports games, like people will pay no matter what and they will keep charging through the nose for them. I mean, you noticed how little people have been complaining about the loot box system that is the player cards thing. That is the exact same thing. But people aren't sort of talking about that because it's been so normalized by this point that they're just like, but how can it be any different?
It's just FIFA now.
Yeah, that's what it is. That blows my mind. But hopefully EA can take a few sort of forward steps and start revolutionizing their games rather than just cannibalizing like what little community they've got left and community support. But yes, as per usual, I'm sorry, it's because it's raining outside. It's horrible, it's affected my mood entirely. Anyway, but let me know what you think about it down in the comments section below. Are you a fan of EA potentially moving to more sort of free-to-play games? Are you surprised to hear that Anthem is a bit disappointing to their parent company? Or are you just excited to just play more games in general? Let us know down below. And as always, I've been Jules. You can follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. And
I've been Josh. You can follow me at Josh Broon with 2 O's over at twitter.com.
For all news like this and more, stay tuned to WhatCulture Gaming. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
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 Bye.